All right, we're going to call the April 5th Site Plan Review Technical Advisory Committee meeting to order. I'll note that we have a quorum. First item of business is the approval of the March 1st minutes. Are there any changes or not? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. First item under old business is the request to postpone for 375 Banfield. We'll just note that that item is postponed until the next meeting. That brings us to item B, the request of the Sagamore Group LLC owner for properties located at 1169 Sagamore and 1171 Sagamore Avenue, requesting site plan review approval for the demolition of 3 existing principal structures and 3 existing accessory structures to be replaced with 6 single-family structures and 2 two-family structures to total 10 living units and 22 parking spaces where 15 is required. Said properties are shown on Assessor Map 224, Lot 14, and Assessor Map 224, Lot 15, and lie within the mixed residential office district. Here to present.
I guess all 3 of us. Joe Coronati, Jones and Beach Engineers.
Tim Phoenix, Hopeful Phoenix, Gormley and Roberts.
Mike Garapi with Garapi Planning Consultants.
Well, we didn't have much to bring up. We know this was on the agenda. We know we're still waiting for comments from the review engineer, which we do not have. We were just wondering if there were anything additional that we could be addressing in the meantime while we're waiting for those comments, and if not, that's great. That's what we'd prefer, but if there is.
I have something.
All right.
Because I think I missed the first TAC meeting you guys were, and I know I looked today to see where we were with it. And it may be a small issue, but there was an investigation in terms of fill on the property, and you guys did that, and Mike Cobo identified an area, but it's not shown on the plan, and I didn't know what your approach was to deal with that. If that's, I didn't see that in there.
It's shown on the plan. What sheet is it, Joe?
Well, this shows the, on the existing additions, we have the area of the approximate fill.
That's on the existing conditions, yeah.
Yeah, on sheet C1, and then it's on the demolition plan. And then we do have, a lot of that area is area where we're developing. So a lot of that general fill outside the wetland area would be removed as part of the house construction, the grading.
So it's that polygon that attaches to the edge of the wetland
Correct. It's a very small area that.
in the development area and off the lot also. So you're gonna bring the other part back to wetland, is that the plan?
That is the plan, yeah, to restore that small area to a wetland condition.
Okay.
And then the remaining unsuitable soils and material that were historically deposited there in the upland areas will be removed as well for
Had a
construction.
conversation with the neighbor about removing that other area on the other?
We've had a few just preliminary conversations.
Are you bringing both of those back?
Well, I think the representatives are here. They could certainly speak to that. We're certainly willing to do that.
Okay.
But we have to obviously we have to arrange that
Yep.
off-site.
But you're willing to do that?
We're definitely willing to do that. It's a very small area.
Yep, that's enough for me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's shown here, but if there could be some description about how that's gonna be done.
Sure.
As part of the project. It might be, if you get approval for the whole project the way it is after you do it, even, because you might not know what you're gonna encounter, but it'd be nice to have a report on that.
Yep.
What the resolution of that was, so that we have that for our records, because we have that violation that we haven't dealt with, so.
Right. Yeah, we could definitely do that. And I think our notes call for some specifications on what to do, but we can make sure that we've got, the correct notes on the plan and a reporting process, if that makes sense, for when we're done, so that we can.
What you came across and what you did with it.
Sure.
And then, I didn't see what you were gonna do to restore it, but.
Peter?
Just bring your microphone too close in.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Thanks.
Was bad about that.
Start over. But there was a note on the plan about what we were doing, but
Yeah, if you could just, bring it up a little bit to the front on, that it gets done and that we see it. It could just be in a follow-up letter after, and then it shows the area on the plan. But it'd be nice to know what you found and what you did with it.
sure,
And then how you're leaving it.
perfect. Easy enough to do.
So we've told you guys multiple times, I'm going to tell you again today. Need an equalization culvert across this road. Period. Project's not going anywhere until that culvert's shown
This is the first
at all.
time,
I've told you multiple times.
I think this is the first time I've heard it, Dave.
Okay,
so I
well, you're
don't know.
hearing it from me directly,
Okay,
okay?
yeah.
No culvert, no project.
So where's this culvert supposed to go?
Across Sagamore.
I'm assuming in the location of where our
We
the
do not
wetland
want
is.
to shed Sagamore Ave water into this little pocket. It's an equalization culvert.
And then the city owns the other side, so
It
it's not a
does.
problem.
That's correct.
Okay. This is the first we're hearing of it,
Okay. I don't think
verbally
that's
or
true,
in
but-
writing.
Might be the first time you're understanding it.
Well,
But because it keeps coming back without a culvert,
You-
we're getting upset.
we've
So-
been asked many times if there is a culvert or there was a culvert. We've
Right.
determined that there wasn't one.
Right, and we
we're-
also determined that we need one.
And again, this is the first time we're hearing it,
Okay.
and we're happy to look into doing that. I think that
Great.
would actually solve a lot of problems.
It would.
So if we're hearing that, that's,
Well, but that being said, it is city property and it doesn't have permission to do that. So that, I think really what Dave is saying is you need to start that conversation
Right.
because it's going to need city permission, it's going to need a wetland permit to do it. So
Maybe not a wetland permit, but definitely
Yeah, I don't think it'll need
we
a
wouldn't
wetland.
Some
be
sort of-
touching.
the head wall.
some sort of permission.
Doesn't need them.
It's not necessarily wetland right up to the road.
Okay.
We flagged that side of the road and located the.
I'm just looking where the 100-foot buffer line is, thinking that's a culvert, but that's probably not where the culvert would go. So yeah, that's fine.
Well, it's
As
pretty
long as
close
you
to
can-
it. I mean, it would,
Pretty
But-
close. So
but
it's
the
going to
work-
be in the buffer.
well, that whole sidewalk and the drainage that we've been
Yep.
It's all in
working
the
with
buffer.
you guys on is
Yep.
all in the buffer.
Yep.
But I
Yep.
believe that's all exempt from CUPs, right? Because it's
In the right of way.
in the
Yep.
right of way. And this, I assume, would be the same scenario.
Show me the design.
Yeah, it depends on the design and where it outlets.
And it's an overflow culvert, not necessarily.
It's an equalization culvert.
Right.
So
So it could be a
if
pond on
if
the bottom.
if the little pocket wetland gets too full, it can go either way
Right.
without having to go out back.
Yeah, we don't want it at the bottom of the wetland. We
Yep.
want it up a little ways. Yeah, we can do that.
There you go, yeah,
That solves
yep.
that issue.
And then-
When's the work proposed? Is there, work in this area is proposed in Sagamore as well, right?
The first phase is going first, so that's the other side of the bridge.
All right.
You have some time.
And we noted that there weren't any other comments from TAC about this project. I'm assuming that,
We're waiting
We're just
for
waiting for the-
Aldis's report.
and are there any other TAC comments other than drainage? I guess that was,
In my mind, your project's not complete because you haven't shown the culvert. So I can't comment on the finished design because I haven't seen a finished design yet.
right. Well, it looks like we'll get to work showing that culvert.
Okay.
So non-tac related, do these plans have basements?
They are not proposed to have basements.
Okay, it didn't look like it, I just wanted to confirm that.
Any other comments at this time from any TAC members? All right. Any comments from the public at this time? Come up and, you can use that microphone on the end and state your name.
Yeah, Yes, I'm Bill Bowen. I'm the president of the Sea Star Cove Homeowners Association, which is the property to the west, and we own the slice of land that cuts around to the north and it goes full through to Sagamore. So we are really the abutters on the north and on the west. Rocco Simone and his son Mike are the property north of that, and they are also involved in this wetlands area question to the north. Just as a very macro comment, we have hired John Chagnon, who did the design of our, works for Ambit, and did the design of our water system, stormwater system for our development when Chinburg was the developer. And he has taken a couple of runs at what he thinks of the project. He's done it about at the same time that Altus has. And I would say that the two have been very much in agreement that if you read specifically item 24 in Altus's last review of the project, they are adamant that this is unacceptable to have the water coming to the north onto our property the way that it's described. We are interested in hearing what Altus has to say the next time and find that to be critical to the project. We have wanted to let the engineering aspects of this be resolved before we get into legal aspects of it. We don't want lawyers arguing about hypothetical engineering questions. It gets very expensive. So there could well be a phase, though, if this continues on the path that it seems to be on, where we would have lawyers sitting at our end of the table if they're having lawyers sitting at their end of the table. The question that was asked about the property landfill or what had been dumped by the Hebert, the current owners, in the culverts or in the swale north of the property over a period of years. Some has been removed by Mike and his people. There's discussion about adding soil to that area. There's discussion about putting culverts in to or from that area. There's discussion of overflow from that area going across the berm down into Rocco's house. There's discussion of going across the berm into our water system to the west. There was a question asked here about whether there'd been discussion with us about modification to the soil in that property. The answer is categorically no. I'm new to this, have never been involved with a project development in Portsmouth, and I don't understand. And I say it sincerely, I just don't understand what the role of the city is, what the role of the developer is, and what the role of the abutting property owners are. We have surveyors coming onto our property, looking at our property. We had people, I think even today, there were a couple workman trucks that were looking at an area where they're not in this area, but in the southwest corner where we think there's risk to our property. There were people there that we were not informed of and kind of came and did what they did and are gone. There's been property or materials that were dumped in that area by the owner of the property, Mike's owner, not us and not Rocco, that has been removed by Mike's people without any discussion with us from our property. There's been no discussion of adding soil or doing anything to remediate the property there, which is our property. I just don't understand what the right and the role of the property owner is in the way these projects get addressed. So kind of at the end of my comment, the the big area that we're concerned about is the area to the north of the project, which is clearly our area. There may be, there's a question of instantaneous rates of flow onto that property, which Altus has previously found totally unacceptable. We now have a set of engineering things after a few small changes to the project that the claim is that it's now acceptable. Don't know that, waiting to hear from Altus, but the primary area of concern is that one to the north. But in the southwest corner, it's hard to talk to the map up there, but in the southwest corner, we've got two houses that are just across the property line from the development, and there's water retention, and there's an area there where water currently dribbles onto our property in a as-is state. The original engineering work that was done did not take into account, when it talked about the amount of water that would be in that area, did not take into account an outflow from the property to the south, the West Wind Condo Association. Altus pointed that out in their first review, that the work done by Jones and Beach had not taken into account water coming onto the Hebert property from adjoining properties. So that we're concerned about what will happen in that southwest corner that will potentially flood the area between the two houses that we have that are about 15 feet away from there. I can't really speak for Joe Gross, who's at West Wind. He couldn't be here today, but he has sent a letter to Peter asking that you have Altus consider the water treatment in the southeast corner, because currently that flows from this property onto Sagamore and comes south in front of West Wind, which causes in the winter an icing problem of cars trying to get in and out of the driveway there, which is fairly steep. So the point of all that is there is a water problem potentially in the southwest. There's a water problem potentially in the southeast, and there's a huge water problem in the north. And if we could be engaged in questions about how people are going to be altering our property, we would welcome such engagement, but find it kind of confounding that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Michael Simone, owner of 1167. Just to kind of reiterate what Bill was saying, you know, one of the roles what are the roles of the developers in the city? Because, you know, I'm an average guy, and no one's asked me to come on my property and do any testing or any of this that we're talking about here. And Sheet W2 has some listed areas of my property that, you know, I understand you guys do tests, but no tests have been done, as far as I know, or asked to do those tests. So at what point do we have to, you know, I took today off to work. I got to pay for a lawyer. We got to keep these things in account. And, you know, at what point are we going to hold people accountable? So I just like to see those roles kind of ironed out and tell me who's responsible for what here, because it's kind of, you know, it keeps on going. We've been on a year here now. So I understand the connecting to the sewer has been pushed back, but on that sheet W2, there's a few other things that, you know, catchment basement number 3 there, that's really close to that stub that I believe Zach would know more about. But you take a look at that, that's a real big question for me, because if that's where the water is going to flow and that backs up, my connection point's right there. So who's monitoring that? Who's taking accountability for that? You know, there's just a lot of questions here that aren't answered, and when communication isn't there, that's a big problem. Everyone can communicate better, but when there is no communication, you know, that's kind of a big question to bring up. So I'll be sending you guys some emails again. I've been trying to send those videos, and no one's really responded. My father got a phone call from some lady. I brought in a USB with those videos on there, and still there's no confirmation of, oh, we've had them. So, I mean, I can go to FedEx Kinko's, and I got DVDs, I got USB, I can print them out. I don't know, you know, there's a lot of discrepancies in these plans that aren't taken account for, and I have videos with those dates of when this stuff happened. So, when you break down those prints, I mean, you can go at the book and say this is what happened, but when you actually have the videos and the pictures, that's a different story. So, you know, again, that's pretty much what I have to say, but I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public at this time? Or we'll close that portion. Let's look for a motion to continue.
So moved. Oh,
Sorry. Is this disturbance more than 15,000 square feet on this lot?
Total disturbance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are you guys looking into site plan review regulation 7.6? Has to do with advanced stormwater treatment if you're disturbing more than 15,000 square feet of area?
I mean, I'd say this is pretty advanced stormwater treatment. We have a lot of different techniques for treatment, storage on the plan, and yeah, I think that's all being reviewed as part of Altus's,
All right.
review.
so,
Zach, what's the section again?
7.6.2.
Yeah, we'll look at it, make sure that we incorporate whatever's required.
All right.
yeah, we'll need a narrative, how you comply with that,
Sure, yeah.
because we're not quite sure that you do.
That's all I had.
Okay.
Yep, that was it.
So, Dave?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll continue this next month. All right, item B under old business is the request, item C under old business is the request of Elizabeth B. Larson Trust of 2012, owner, for property located at 668 Middle Street, requesting site plan review approval for the construction of two 2-unit structures and improvement to the existing structures to create a total of 8 units on 3 lots with associated utilities, connections, and site improvements. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 147, Lot 18, and lies within the Historic and General Residence A districts. All right, same
I guess
group.
that's us, yeah.
Yes. Once again, Joe Coronati, Jones and Beach Engineers. We resubmitted plans back on March 22nd. We received, I guess, 10 or so comments from, preliminary comments for the TAC from this group yesterday, and I think we're getting closer to the, hopefully moving this forward. I don't see any real questions on what was asked. I mean, there was, I guess the one clarifying thing for me was that we have a subdivision plan. We were asked to include an easement plan, which we can certainly do. That'll clean up our subdivision plan, put the easements all on one sheet, put the subdivision on a separate sheet. But the condo site plan that shows limited common areas, my understanding from your comments is that would not be part of the set. Is that accurate? That the condo site plan would be something that's filed afterwards? Or that part I was a little fuzzy on what was being asked on the,
Pretty sure what they were asking for is a condo site plan for each condominium, and there are 3 that I can figure.
yes.
Yep.
And then LCAs are not to be shown.
No, that's the one question I think, and that's really the primary reason why Tim is here today, is just to talk about that, because our understanding is, and Tim can get into more detail, is that those LCAs aren't to be shown on a site plan, but if it's part of a subdivision, it's really a subdivision, and we have a subdivision application as a component of this project, so Our intent was to show both the fee simple subdivision that we're proposing of the one lot into two, but also show those LCAs on the same plan. If there's a different way that it needs to be presented, we can, but
Elaborate on that. I've had this discussion with the legal department several times over the years, and Bob Sullivan's position is if you have a condominium and you show by dotted lines limited common area, that constitutes a subdivision, which would require subdivision review. I disagree with that analysis, but that's how the city has always done it. In this case, so what we usually do is we describe any limited common areas in words in the condominium documents rather than show it on the plan, and that works around it. Here, however, Bob's position has always been that if you show those lines, it's a subdivision, but we thought it's okay to show them because it is a subdivision. So I don't know whether that answers the question or whether I need to talk to Bob or...
I think you should talk to the legal department and hash it through over the next month,
Yep.
so that when you submit your final version, it's approvable.
Okay.
I agree. I think he doesn't want to see those boundaries delineated. I think he feels like that also constitutes an additional parceling out of those sections, or it makes it create some confusion on that, but I would certainly talk to Bob about that. He has been very firm about it.
Yeah, he has, and I've tried and tried and tried.
I think it's been firm in the respect that it's a subdivision. So if we're actually applying for a subdivision, one would think that,
Well, you're including line separation between the two existing buildings, and that was going to be one condominium area, right?
well, if you're referring to the site plan of the duplexes, is that what you're referring to, Zach?
No,
or-
between condominium
A and B.
one unit, and
Yep.
B, you do have a line between the two, isn't there?
Right, yeah, so we were proposing to have limited common area. Each would enjoy sort of the area that they enjoy at this point, because it's two sort of separate, dwellings, obviously, the way it's laid out now. We were proposing to show the same for the duplexes, that each have, essentially half of the lot would be limited common area for each.
Right.
Yeah.
What we're telling you is, our legal department is telling you that we don't want that show.
Yeah, I'll talk to
So,
Bob about
yeah.
it, because he...
Over the next month, please work through it.
Yeah, in the past, it's been a situation where my clients didn't want to go through subdivision, so we just dealt with it. But here, we're doing it anyway, so I'll talk to Bob if he's okay with it in this circumstance, and we'll let you guys know.
And Joe, if I could also add something to the easement plan, if you could have a unique identifier for the easements that corresponds to the table, and then when we work through the construction plans, we can see those easements identified by that unique identifier. We've run into some problems with that, and we're trying to get that a little bit more standardized to make sure
But
that...
just line types, different line types?
I think just
Hatching
a
or-
unique identifier for each of the easements. We can find them in the table so that we can see them as they correspond to the table. We've had a little trouble at finding easements, finding out which easement is doing what, so it should correspond to the table. And then when we actually get the draft easements, there should be a relationship, because I can't tell you how many hours we spent on another project just finding the easements and finding out which draft easement legal document matches the
title
easement.
of
plan.
Yeah, we're
title
just
of
trying to
easement
get,
can be
yeah,
confusing,
yes, if we, if they're all labeled drainage easements and we don't have unique identifiers for each one, then we have a hard time discerning what belongs to what.
Sure.
It takes us extra time on the other side when you're trying to get your permits.
So, I guess if the limited common area is something that's going to slow down the process, I would rather just take them off and describe them as we've done in the past, Tim, I guess, for
That's fine, I guess.
Other
the
applications,
question would be
because
if we agree to that and agree to take those off, are you folks ready to send this to planning board?
with these changes, once we make these changes, obviously, and go to planning, that would be the intent.
Yeah, there was additional design changes in the notes regarding the sewer. Sewer manhole was shown in the middle of the driveway.
I think the last comment was we wanted it in the roadway, and we moved it to the,
Right, and it's not in the roadway, it's in the driveway.
you wanted it in the Chevrolet roadway, not our roadway.
We want it in such a place that people can work on it without obstructing traffic completely. It's shown right in the middle of the driveway.
All right, yeah, so you want it out of the middle of our driveway.
So, Joe, maybe you'd show it where that S is on the, currently,
To the,
in the first S in Chevrolet Ave.
yeah.
And it might require that you have 2 manholes. I don't know.
Oh, to come around the
But
corner.
the city manhole maybe should be where the S is, and then it goes on site from there, so it's not in the way.
Kind of runs through the pond or in that location, but we could probably get it closer to, so you want it on the edge of Chevrolet,
Should be in the pavement of Chevrolet.
and then, all right, yeah, we can make that change simply enough.
So I guess our question would be, are those, they seem like fairly changes that could be made rather quickly, and if there aren't any other issues, we'd prefer to go to planning if it's ripe for that.
So I would defer to Public Works on these. I think that items could be
Wasn't there a
updated.
list of other things?
Maybe is the list, maybe you should go through the list of items, the comments, and
Yep,
how you're going to
certainly.
address them.
The first one was adding an easement plan, which we could do. We have the easements currently on the subdivision plan, which we can separate. Second one is water service material to be copper within right-of-way with brass curb stop. We can clarify that. Number 3 is show need for 2-inch water service to existing dwelling. I don't think we have a need for a 2-inch water service to an existing dwelling, but the,
Well, that's what you're showing on your plan. So we're kind of wondering why.
Which dwelling, David, is
This
the,
plan.
the
The
front?
carriage house.
Carriage house?
yeah, I think I was confused with the water service running up the, potentially up the street, but no, that's supposed to be not a 2-inch. That'll be a 1-inch. I think that's just a typo. The sizes to each of the condos will be 1-inch. The capping of sewer manhole 2395. We'll certainly add that note. That's also kind of the location where the sewer is going to be connected to that manhole. So depending on the location of that service, we'll cap it or.
Originally, you were showing a 4-inch ductile iron water service for these 4 condos too, weren't you?
I know there's been, I don't know if we were ever showing a 4-inch. We have a 2-inch copper water main
Yeah.
to the services, I mean, to the 4 new units.
So I'm not sure you need a flushing hydrant for a 2-inch line. I thought that originally you were showing a bigger line.
Right, we have it as a blow-off at the end.
I understand that. I'm saying it's not really necessary. Usually blow-off hydrants at the end of 4-inch lines.
Correct. With 5, we'll add that note, like I said, but we may end up coring where that service comes in. And then reconnecting, we're reconnecting that back unit to the new sewer service, sewer main. The location of the sewer manhole, number 6, we just discussed relocating that. 7 is the limited common areas, which we've agreed we'll just remove from the plan set. We'll keep the condo site plan, but remove the LCAs.
Yep.
8,
And you should have a condo site plan for all 3. One for each.
we can do that. Normally, we do show them all on one plan, but I guess here, there's not really much, we're getting to the point where there's probably no need even for a condo plan. I mean, condominium site plans are basically utilized to show limited common areas. So I think that this might be a situation where we just remove the plan completely from the set, if you all agree,
Did you do a stormwater easement?
for the front,
Because you have,
for the rain garden in the front.
they're not labeled, but, yeah, they are. So lot 18 drain, 18-1 is draining onto lot 18-2.
Yes, within the condominium, there would be, and I know they're separate lots. so
They're
there
on
would be-
separate lots, so you need an easement.
Right.
So it needs another easement for the plan.
So if it's all right, we'll just remove the condo site plan from the set, and we won't have to worry about that, I guess. The number 9, snow storage should be moved so as not to conflict with the blow-off hydrant. I think we've moved the blow-off at the end of the, we've already moved the blow-off hydrant off the road. And it sounds like it's going to end up being flush anyways, if it's without the hydrant, so then the snow will not be a problem, but it is pretty far off the edge of pavement.
Where is the mailbox?
The mailbox is shown on sheet C2. Sheet 4.
CS1, C3, C...
Towards the front of the driveway, there's a note that says proposed mailbox kiosk.
Okay, so you're gonna make the mailman drive into the site.
Unless you want him to stay on Chevy, but I would
Probably be easier for
want
him.
him off the road.
Probably be easier for him.
Then it would end up obviously in your right of way
Yeah.
somewhere.
That's fine.
Yeah, we could move that to the, we'd probably put it on the west side of the driveway leading in.
Yeah, maybe it's just inside the radius, so it's just on your property, but he doesn't have to drive all the way into the site and then back out on the Chevrolet Ave to deliver the mail.
Yeah.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 10 is shared driveway easement documentation needs to be provided for lots, and we can provide, the shared driveway location is shown on the plans. It will be on the, it's on the subdivision plan currently. It will be on the,
Talking about these right here, Joe. I think.
Okay, and then we need
that's for the other
to,
side. I thought you meant for the,
we need to show that that easement for, on the butter's property for the sewer has been granted and is at least being asked to be approved by the city council. It should be signed by the abutter and
Yeah, we
should
have-
be at the city council.
Yep.
So that we can see definitively that it's okay to put the sewer line in.
Yeah, we have an agreement with the neighbor.
Yeah, is it signed?
It is.
Okay.
The agreement is
The
signed.
easement.
Yep, we're drafting the
Is the
easement.
easement,
We're going to draft the easement that's going to be submitted to the city.
the easement needs to be drafted, signed,
Yep.
and submitted to the city council.
Correct, and that would.
Tim,
Got it?
yes?
Yes.
Okay.
And the same with the easement for the driveway on Middle, which I believe is comment number 10. We've been speaking with the neighbor about that, and we'll have that easement drafted as well.
Easement off Middle.
I believe that's what that number 10 comment is, am I right?
It's number 10.
yes,
Yeah.
number 10 is about the shared driveway
Yeah.
on Middle.
Yeah, that's just something that we wanted to do to clean up an existing situation. It's been,
All right, well, that's less concerning because that's your land. The other one is somebody else's property. That's why it matters.
sure, yeah, well, the driveway's on both properties, so it's still important to clean up, so we're definitely going to do that as well.
And then the last one, number 11, is prior to construction, please include condo docks, but that's a typical thing prior to construction anyway.
Sure. Yep.
Any other comments from any other TAC members? All right, I'll open it up. Is there any comment from anyone in the public on this application? Being none, close that portion and discussion for TAC.
Dave, to be clear, those off-site easements, you want those to be filed with the city council prior to submittal for the planning board? Okay. Approved by the city
Yeah,
council?
because we don't have a way to provide storage for the site
Okay.
unless that easement has been provided.
Approved by the city council prior to?
Doesn't need to be approved, but it should be signed by the owner of the property next door and submitted for approval.
Understood. I think,
As a component, sorry to interrupt, but as a component of that agreement, we're also providing the easement for Chevrolet right-of-way that currently is located on the Wayland's property. So I think that'll be the final piece for the city to have complete control and access to maintain the roadway.
Okay. I haven't seen it, so
Well, I mean, normally these are...
I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it.
Normally, these things are conditions of approval, but we're happy to get all this stuff done in advance. Makes sense, get the ball rolling.
so I understand that all the comments are still outstanding except comment 8, and there's some additional easements that need to be provided. Is that correct, Dave? And we just are saying that I think they're proposing just removing the condominium site plan. I think it's your argument that the only thing different that's distinguished on that plan is the limited common areas. And if we're going to require, where will the limited common areas be described? That's
It'll
just-
be, well,
In
Tim,
the condominium declarations.
Okay. So, recognizing those are still outstanding, and there's a few easements that would need to be provided, would you like to see it again, or are you ready, comfortable with it going forward with those amended conditions?
I actually think it's okay to leave TAC. I mean, I think we can chase the rest of it.
Okay.
I don't think it's okay to get a planning board approval until that easement is at least in the queue for city council approval. And it has to go to the planning board first,
Understood?
right?
Yes, understood. So I think what we're saying is that we'll provide you some revised comments and be really clear in that we'd like to see all those 100% complete and provided in this, addressed in the submittal before the planning board. So it sounds like there's still some work to do before you go to planning board, but that I think the group is, I don't know if we have to take a vote on it.
Yes, we do.
So I'll make a motion to that point.
For a second?
Second.
Can we read all of the stipulations into the record? Or is this postponement?
No,
No,
it's
it's
a
ready.
motion to
Okay.
move it
To
forward.
approve.
Then, if we could read everything into the record, that would make it super clear for
So I can
decision.
I can read those out. It's the same stipulations 1 through 11, removing stipulation 8, and you'll have to help me to make sure I get this right, Dave. There are with the addition of providing the two approved off-site easement. Is that correct? 2 approved off-site easements.
At least one. 2, right? One for the road, one for the...
Driveway.
Or is it the same easement?
it'll be the same
The
easement.
driveway is a separate thing, right? So the driveway goes across somebody else's land? Oh, I see. I got you. I understand. Okay. Yep. didn't pick up on that one.
Is it one off-site easement, one driveway off-site?
Two.
Two, and that
Yep.
one was for sewer. I thought there was.
One's a driveway off of Middle Street, the other one's got to do with Chevrolet Ave and utilities underneath it.
Okay.
It'll be one easement that describes both
Okay?
utilities and.
And then
road.
there's, needs to be a drainage easement on Lot 18-2 for Lot 18-1. That's not shown yet. We need an easement plan.
Okay. So that's,
The LCAs need to be taken off the plan, per the legal department. And then, we've already mentioned, I think it's on there, right?
Yeah.
So comments 1 through 11.
1 through 11, except 8, I think we're going to remove, and then the additional, there's one on-site easement needs to be addressed. It's drainage for 18-1 for Lot 18-2. 2 off-site easements need to be drafted and submitted to the city council, but we'll amend that in our final comments. Dave, I just have a quick question. Was there a question regarding, I want to say, sewer, was it 5? Was there anything in addition to comment 5 that you wanted to amend or?
No, that's a construction thing.
Okay, that stands then as it is. Okay. Wasn't sure if there was something you wanted to add to that.
Should be shown on the plan, and then they'll build it when they build it.
I think there's also an amendment to, well, number 3, I think that you need to also, we'll probably amend that to update it to show 1-inch water service to an existing dwelling. I think that's, is that a correct?
Or as appropriate, as determined by the MEP engineer.
Understood. Okay.
All right, you set? All right, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No?
Can I ask a quick scheduling question? Deadline to have all this stuff in for next available? This is when I put everyone, Joe on the spot and Tim.
April 27th, I believe. It's as listed online.
So April planning board is not an option?
No.
Okay. So, all right, so we're looking at the May 19th. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And
Perfect.
we're trying to provide that now in your letters of decision, just when the next eligible planning date, submittal date is, and everything that we need to see updated prior to that submittal that we'll be checking for. And so,
Perfect, awesome, great, thanks so much.
Plans and all that fun stuff.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Who are we next? Is that it?
Item D on the agenda is the request of
Are you texting me
Master
too?
Restaurants, Inc., owner and Granite State Convenience applicant for property located at 2255 Lafayette Road, requesting site plan review and conditional use approval for use 19.40 under section 10.440 to allow a drive-through facility as an accessory use to a permitted principal use in the Gateway Corridor Zone. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 272, Lot 3, and lies within the Gateway Corridor G1 District. Who is here to present this?
Good afternoon, Peter. Chris Mulligan from Bozen and Associates. With me to my right is Nicole Duquette, the project engineer, and to her right is Brad Pernoff from The Common Man. So we received your comments yesterday, and we are prepared, Nicole's prepared to go over them. One question I have, similar to Mike Gareppi's last comment before he left you, has to do with timing and scheduling and just sort of procedural things. If you don't mind, I'd like to quickly discuss conditions 10 and 11, which require conditional use permit requests to go before the Conservation Commission and site review. If I understand the submission deadlines correctly, I believe those submission deadlines are, again, April 27th for both, if I'm interpreting that correctly.
Are you talking about the deadline for the wetland conditional use permit at the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board?
Yes.
It's the same deadline.
So it's the same deadline. So what we were hoping we'd be able to get to, we'll go through the rest of the conditions, but since the Conservation Commission would meet before May 19th, I think they meet on the 11th, if we submit for the conditional use permit, can we also file the final submission to the planning board, assuming that we're going to get that approval or get that recommendation from the Conservation Commission? So obviously, we'd like to see if we can hold to the May planning board meeting.
So what is the, I'm sorry, what is the, so the submittal date is the same for both. What Conservation Commission meeting are you hoping to get to?
On to the 11th.
Okay. How have we normally done that? Yeah.
It's, at one point, we were able to get them back to back, but I think the level of number of applications has pushed most of those wetland conditional uses to the following month. Has been I don't think there's been one that's gone back to back in quite some time, just because of the number of applications on the planning board agenda.
So would that mean that if we submitted for the conditional use permit on the 27th, it wouldn't actually be heard by the Conservation Commission until June?
No, it's going to the Conservation Commission first.
Yep.
Next week, and then it'll go to the planning board when they have a spot for it to get onto their agenda, if you get approval. If you get a recommendation for approval, it would go to the next available planning board meeting.
Okay.
That's the way it's been working.
All right.
We try to get it in the same month, but it's just been too many applications.
Okay.
If there's a change, though, we have all these, we end up having postponements, and this creates a lot of confusion on the part of the planning board if there's a significant change, so it's,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. All right, you ready to take it away?
Right. So we did receive the comments yesterday. Thank you, Stephanie. And nothing jumps out at me on this list, but if I may, I'd like to go through them item by item.
Please.
Okay.
Thanks.
So the domestic water service cannot come off of the fire service line. We're actually, I have a new, as of, well, it was after we submitted this, we have a new building prototype. The building prototype is less than 5,000 square feet. So we will be substituting that. So I believe with the stipulation with the fire protection is if it's 5,000 and greater, we need a fire protection line. So that fire protection line would come off with the new building footprint. The building footprint width and length are very similar. It's just that we have a lot of more like decorative indents, especially towards the back and in the front. So it's not going to change the building, the development footprint, and it's just changing the shape of the building within what we're showing today. And that we can quickly revise and submit before the April 27th deadline. The item number 2, showing the abandoning and capping of the existing water service at the main. We did include a note on sheet number 4, but I really should have included a note on sheet number 3 on the demo plan too, to discontinue that water line, because that's really helpful on the demo plan. So we will coordinate that. Item number 3, include a note at the future Tesla and EV charging stations that parking will not be restricted to only Tesla or electronic vehicles. We have no problem with that. So I will add a note to sheet number 4 of the site plan. Include no parking sign and access aisle between the handicap parking spaces. Peter, would you mind just zooming in? Thank you. So we do have 2 bollards there because this is a flush sidewalk. So we could put it on one of those 2 bollards. I can't put it in the center of the space because then I have accessibility issues. But if you're okay, I can put it on one of the offset bollards.
That'd be fine.
Okay. Note number 5, fix the note to the left of the stormwater storage unit on sheet 5. I actually didn't look into that one just yet, but I'm sure fixing the note will be fine. Sheet number 6, per the City of Portsmouth stormwater regulations, stormwater treatment will be necessary for this site. And I did realize that we have pretreatment on the site mostly. So we will be adding a unit at the end. Right now, we're pricing out different treatment units. We're trying to stay away from jellyfish because they are very expensive. I think I have an alternative to that. But we're talking to the vendor and making sure that it meets Portsmouth's requirements, and that will be in the stormwater.
Okay.
And when you say at the end, where do you think
So
about putting
after
it?
the detention,
Okay, at the end of the treatment train?
at the end of the treatment train. So you have your oil water separator, you have, I think we have First Defense in here, so it will go into your detention, and then on the outlet side, it's always easier, I think it's, you get more, you get more value out of your treatment unit if it's slowed, if your stormwater's slowed down before it goes into that unit.
Jellyfish we've used before and we're comfortable with, and
Okay.
just so you know.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll send
it would
you
have to go through
ahead
an
of time
improvement process.
The one that I'm thinking
If
of.
you're thinking some kind of mechanical,
Yeah, we're thinking-
non-gravel wetland, any of the other advanced treatment systems.
We're thinking of a bay filter, but I have to get the documents from ADS to make sure that it meets with Portsmouth's requirements.
Okay.
And I'll get that to you beforehand,
Okay.
just to make sure you're in agreement too. Item number 7, easement required to cross property behind this lot and connect into the sewer main. We actually have a quitclaim deed for this property to maintain and repair a sewer pipe from the property previously conveyed to the grantee by the grantor to the sewer line easement owned by the city of Portsmouth. So we do have a quitclaim deed. I have a copy I can give to you now, or I could just submit it, or both. Submit it electronically with these items. So that one's taken care of. Number 8, show detail on sewer service connection to the sewer main. We will provide that. Item 9, include easement for water leak detention over water service. I did have a question on that. Do you typically do a blanket easement over the lot for this?
Yeah, and that's usually for buildings that have multiple water services, so I'm not sure why they get added.
So we wouldn't need it for just the service, the domestic service?
Especially if you're just doing a domestic service. You
Okay.
are aware that the domestic service is quite large on that property already, and probably
Is
doesn't.
it inch and a quarter?
Probably doesn't need to be replaced unless you really need it to be replaced.
We'll see what we used in Manchester and look at that.
But you probably should do a flow test on the existing line before you decide that you're gonna tear up Route 1. and
Okay.
Put a slightly larger size in,
Right, because it would only be for a
Small
quarter
building.
inch more.
so you don't have to do fire suppression.
Right.
Seems,
We'll look into that. Thank you.
okay.
I did look up the ordinance, so it's fire area, not footprint. So you want to make sure there's no mezzanines, no second floor areas for mechanicals or anything like that, that didn't have proper separation to constitute a separate fire area. It's 3 hours.
So the mechanicals are exterior, but they are on the roof. They're, well, they were towards, it's open towards the back.
So
So-
I would want to look at the plan,
Okay.
just to make sure, so there's no surprises.
And I'm guessing that your email is on the website,
It is.
and I can get it.
That'd be okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Just going back to the sewer, I know that, oh, actually, that's further on. Item number, thank you. Item number 10, the wetland conditional use permit request must go before the Conservation Commission before formal application submission to the planning board. We actually have the application already submitted electronically. We'll replace it with the new plan set. We were holding off going until we had most of these comments adjusted, though. Item number 11, site review and drive-through conditional use permit must be completed prior to formal application and submission to the planning board. And we already have the conditional use permit request in for that too, so we are aware of that. Item number 12, note that owner is to obtain all necessary permits for work within the wetland, to abandon sewer services such as state wetland permit. List all permits in item 23 of notes on sheet 4. Dave, we're looking into trying to plug that existing service from inside the main. I know that they've done it in, we had done some work with Tuscan, and we had plugged, there was an area that we couldn't break the pavement. So we were able to plug the, disconnect and plug it from the main. I'm trying to find out that company's name, and I'll get the information over to you on that. And that way we wouldn't have to worry about wetland permits or disturbing the wetland in that area. The other thing, that the existing pipe, when we cambered, just so everybody is aware, when we cambered that existing pipe, there was a lot of breaks. It's typical for that type of pipe. And the more concerning thing is that there was a significant break at the main that was letting a bunch of infiltration in. So we decided that it would be best to discontinue that service and provide a new service in the upland. That way we don't have to worry about as much infiltration. And it's a new service that we could line it. We could line the existing service, but we were told that we needed to install a manhole within the wetland because because of the long length. So we did look into that. But it was installing a new manhole within the wetland into the main, and we figured that that wasn't the best idea.
Describe that.
I guess it's shifted off.
Yeah.
So.
But they think they can plug it, even though it's shifted off?
They think they can.
Need to TV the whole thing.
Right. So that's why I'm trying to coordinate with this other company to see what they did in Tuscan and see if we can do the same thing for this. So, and I'll get you that information in the company that we're coordinating with too. Item number 13, there shall be no signage restricting parking spaces to electric vehicles using vehicle use, including in charging areas. The only restricting spaces that we'll have is the accessible spaces. I believe that's it. So we do have some work to do regarding the sewer and getting Dave what he wants, but I don't think, I think we can do that by the April 27th deadline.
Any additional comments or questions from TAC members?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, Peter.
I should have included it in the comments, but I didn't. And it's more of a wetland conditional use thing, but it's in our zoning regulations that all new pavement in the buffer should be porous. So the one I'm particularly concerned about is the new bike path or bituminous concrete sidewalk coming down the site. I know everywhere else is paved already, so it's not necessarily new pavement, but that one in particular. Can you make that bike path, or walking path, whatever it is, to access the sidewalk on Route 1 porous?
For the multi-use path?
Yeah. Not on the street, not on the Route 1 one, on yours, the ones that leaves the Route 1 path and comes onto your site, the shaded path. The
So-
bituminous concrete sidewalk you added?
So just so, that is within the area of pavement, existing pavement, except for a little 10-foot section.
Right.
So
that little 10-foot
it wouldn't,
section- Well, the whole thing wouldn't, the whole thing's on the outside of the paved area, right? On your apron? Where you're gonna cut the pavement back? And then have a bituminous connection, is that right?
so if you go to sheet, what sheet are you on?
I'm looking at the
Sheet
utility
foot.
plan.
Okay, so this is,
Zigan?
So you're talking about that sidewalk right there, right?
Yeah.
So the only section that is
Point to that
new,
again?
The sidewalk?
Yep, that's
the
it.
only section that is new is where that, oh, well, I have a light pole to shift over. See where it says snow storage? Below that, because that's all parking, it's from there down to the
Yeah.
property line. That's the only section that is new on here.
So at least that has to be porous. Unless you can come up with a reason not to. That's what I mean, it's required in our ordinance, so.
Is
I
it,
see the whole thing porous, but,
is that something that is a variance or a waiver? Just
it would be a variance.
batching,
It's not pavement now, right? Or it is pavement now?
just that little section is not pavement. So we're
you're
talking
gonna pave
about
that section?
maybe a 75 square foot section.
Well,
Batching that much?
There's an opportunity to justify it,
Okay.
so take a look at that section. It's 10.
And is it with the ZBA or with the planning board to justify?
It would be a variance, but I think if you read the section, you might find a wiggle room in there that you can work with. So
Without
I'd-
going to the ZBA?
Yeah, if you couldn't do it,
Okay.
you'd have to go to the ZBA. So it's 10.18.31.
10/18.
0.31.
Thank you.
I'd open it up, but I'd have to close this
No,
thing.
don't worry about it. I can get it. Okay. That's very helpful.
Take a look at it, give me a call if you have a question, but.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Okay.
Pat?
So the convenience store, see what show us up, is there seating inside?
There is seating inside. It's kind of lounge type seating.
For 10 people.
We just want to make sure that didn't turn into a simple use if you're going to this.
Right.
All right, any other comments? Any public comments on this application? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. What do we think on this one, Tack?
Just confirm, we can do it before the next planning board meeting, that it meets the size restrictions, but not requirement suppression system.
Is that a new comment, Pat?
Probably want to confirm that it is in fact remains mercantile versus, A2. If you have seating in there, I was looking at it strictly as a convenience store, going in, going out, but what are the seats for? You're not serving food, you're just like pre-made, how does this, you're making sandwiches and then folks are sitting down to eat.
Yeah, there's a couple of kind of lounge type seats.
Yeah, there's a couch and a chair if people choose to drink a coffee while they're in there or eat their lunch, but it's not, there's no wait staff, there's no wait service.
We'll take a look at that.
It will be in the
It's a big
building
space,
elevation.
so make sure
Yeah,
it's
in the
not
footprint.
A2.
Mhm. You're doing a fireplace with this one?
So are there, it looks to me like all the comments are still applicable. There's a couple of additional comments, one by Peter Britz, in compliance with section 10.1018.31, porous pavement would be required or justification that meets the standard for not providing that within the wetland buffer. All the other comments are still outstanding, and it sounds like there's an additional one from fire demonstrating that the total building square footage falls beneath the requirements for sprinkling. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was just worried that they will provide background with what we need to each of us, suppression systems,
I was going to add, is there a modification, Dave, for comment 6 about wanting a detail about what type of I guess, mechanisms they'll be using on site, or is there anything added to item 6 or comment 6?
The stormwater regulation treatment.
Yeah, well, I hate to do this to you, but as shown, it doesn't meet the requirements.
Right.
It just doesn't. So, it's too bad, because I do, the site plan's a really good one. It just doesn't quite.
No, we understand.
So, and
And
you
we
need
can
to,
add
I
that.
would like to have an answer on your sewer line and your water service.
Do you want to see it come back, or do you want to work that through?
I personally think it needs to come back as much as I don't want to say it.
All right.
And one more note, you really shouldn't put a transformer on top of your sewer line. I know it's
No, we
not,
shouldn't.
I know it's not exactly on it, but it's in the excavation area, so
Okay.
should try to keep it at least 6 feet off it.
So the next submission deadline for a TAC meeting, but not a work session meeting, is April 19th for the May 3rd. Could we possibly submit for the April 27th, knowing that we probably will get pushed off to the May hearing because you have so many items on the planning board at the time?
Right, but that's a work session, not a TAC meeting, so we can't approve it. Right.
No, the April 19th is a submission deadline for the
TAC, right.
May
For the
3rd
next
TAC
meeting.
meeting.
For
Yeah.
the May 3rd, okay, sorry.
Yeah, not a work session.
Okay.
There is a work session before that, but I figured that you
That
didn't.
deadline's today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's today, so I wouldn't be able to make that anyways. So if I can have it done by April 19th, we could submit for the planning board just to make sure that we're in the queue to get on a meeting in the near future.
I don't know how you want to handle that. Probably.
So we'd like to see, we have to notice, so the planning board's middle deadline is the 27th, is that, of
Right.
April? And you would be going to TAC on
May 3rd.
May 3rd, and so we would have to make a call. I think we'd have enough time to make that call. Yeah,
It
I
gives you
think.
16 days. So there's a possibility.
Well,
Not
then you
definite
also, yeah.
possibility.
But the problem is that if you don't get, if you have comments here that require a new submittal to come in, we will
Mhm.
not have that before the planning commission. This is the issue, is that
Right.
so
I understand.
the only thing I will say is that all the issues need to, if there's issues outstanding that require a new submittal to be put in, then we're going to push it back, and we're not going to notice for it. And so I'll need you to, acknowledge that, and
Right.
when if you don't get all your comments fully resolved before the planning board, and we require a new submission, then we're gonna, if there's still things outstanding, we're gonna require you to ask for a postponement for that submittal.
Sure.
So. So you can get it all squared away, I guess, before the May TAC regular meeting.
Sounds good.
Final comment, Stephanie. Said the representative of the sewer department needs to witness the capping of the existing service, the installation of the new sewer service, and whatever method is used to abandon the old service. The TV video needs to be provided for review by the city engineer.
Would you like that on a note on the utility plan?
Yep.
So is it essentially prior to the abandonment of the existing service line,
Yep.
TV, or the camera
And the existing, and the
needs to be,
service has to be abandoned prior to CO.
okay,
Need to make sure it happens. A lot of water going into the sewer.
okay. If you want to see also the camera footage before they make a decision to abandon it, and then you also need to see it abandoned before it's understood. Okay.
Look for a motion to continue.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Last item under old business is request of ADL 325 Little Harbor Road Trust for property located at 325 Little Harbor Road, requesting wetland condition use permit under section 10.1017 of the zoning ordinance to replace the existing single-family structure, carriage house, shed, barn, and paddock, construct a garage, pool cabana, playground, and renovate the existing barn and shed with all associated electric, gas, water, and sewer updates as required on private property and within the public right-of-way. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 205, Lot 2, and is located within the rural and single residence A districts. Who's here today?
Hannah Giovanucci with TF Moran, civil engineer. I have Corey with me as well with TF Moran. Bernie Lee of Severino Construction. I have the applicants and owners, Rachel and Anthony, and their representative. John. There you go. And also the builder, Jim Youngblood. Do you have the latest plans that we sent this morning? Because we can pass this over, and they're right on here if you want to look at them. I trust that you all received our April 1st letter that came from Kevin Baum regarding just the background of this project and where we're at. We're hoping to go to planning board next and really seeking your approval. February 28th, we had we responded to we received comments from you and responded to comments on March 22nd. After that, we worked directly with DPW to kind of work through all those comments. I think there were about 10 or 12. And then just recently, yesterday, we received 2 comments from Stephanie, and these should be the plans. It says, revised April 4th. Those are right.
Are these right?
Yep. And so our first comment that we received was regarding the sewer force main and the high points regarding that and where the air relief was supposed to be. We work with
C17.
C17. We work with FR Mahoney based on their guidance and E1's guidance on locating these. Their recommendations are putting those air release valves every 25 feet and every 2,000 to 2,500 feet. So original application, we had 1 air relief valve, but understanding that the city had a few questions regarding that and a little bit of concern about the high points, we decided to just go to the conservative way. We added 2 additional air release valves, one near the bridge. If you could go back up. Keep going. We have one right at the bridge. I don't know if you see that aqua writing right there. So we have a high point right there. Now if you keep going down, back down the other way, it kind of goes backwards. We have one within Little Harbor Road, and then we also, I think we missed it, we have one, if you go back up, in the private road. So we have 2 air release valves, in one near the bridge and on the private road. So there's 2 there, and then 1 in Little Harbor Road. So I think at this point we've nailed every single high point that we have. So there's 3. And we've also stamped the plan. It was stamped previously. FR Mahoney doesn't stamp the plans. They just provide sizing guidance and guidance on the pump design. So we just incorporate that information, and we ourselves provide the sewer profile. So this is our civil engineering design for that. Our second comment was back related to the high points, and I think we already just discussed that similar to the first comment. So I'm wondering if you guys have any more additional comments. And
Any other comments?
We have it on the agenda, I think.
Okay.
Is there anyone from the public to speak on this? No? All right. Discussion among TAC. Good to go?
Recommend approval to the planning board?
Second.
We have any stipulations? Are we satisfy everything? We have outstanding anything?
Do these,
Technically, these two stipulations need to stay, and these will be your new submissions for the planning board.
Do you want to read those, or do we know what they are?
they're just the existing comments that you received are still standing. We need a full submittal prior. No, we would take this as the new submittal and add it to the existing submittal. Is that what?
Right.
Yeah.
I just have a question on there's a letter here dated March 21 that addresses the sprinkler. I assume that will be in the new plans that will be going to the...
Did the last submittal include a letter regarding the sprinklers? Do you know?
I thought it did.
This submittal, the one that we got.
Later in the
One from the planning board or through TAC?
The one that we received from TAC earlier, but I thought you
From the
just gave it a
MEP?
new one. I just want to make sure it was in there.
Yeah, so all of your relevant materials should be included in one PDF submitted for planning board.
Okay.
And that's the plans and the letter regarding the sprinklers?
Yeah,
And-
so if you can get that to me by the end of the week,
Okay.
we can make sure that everything is
It's
updated.
Okay.
And if these stipulations are met, they won't be provided as, I think the subsequent one. I guess, no, I think if they're all met, then we won't have any additional comments for the planning board.
Thank you for working with us.
All right, there's a motion. Dave seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just a procedural question. We were on the planning board agenda in December, and I asked to postpone that indefinitely till we got through TAC. With that, I assume we're on the agenda for April 21st?
Yes, but it needs to be renoticed.
Okay,
So you're on the agenda, but
okay.
We'll be renoticing.
we'll
Yeah, so we'll
re-noticing.
get you a revised submittal, these plans, the sprinkler letter, the application, et cetera. And then typically what you've done is, on the viewpoint, sent me an email and we pay the fees right on that for renoticing. Is that the,
I believe that's how it works. You'd need to review that with Kim,
okay,
up in the office.
sure, all right.
Kim, reach out to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now we're on to new business. Request of HCA Realty, Inc. and Portsmouth Regional Hospital, applicant for property located at 0 Borthwick Avenue, requesting site plan review, approval for the construction of a satellite parking lot consisting of 520 spaces, and associated site improvements to support the existing hospital facilities currently serviced by 783 parking spaces. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 234, Lot 7-4A, and is located in the Office Research District. Who's here? Patrick.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Patrick Crimmins with Ty and Bond. We are the civil engineers, wetland scientists, soil scientists, and landscape architect on this project. Also here with me, sitting in the audience, is Dean Carucci, the Chief Executive Officer of Portsmouth Hospital, and Matt Larkin, the Chief Operating Officer. We're here today for a proposed satellite parking lot project across the street from Portsmouth Hospital. For any of you that have visited the hospital during any peak parking times, I'm sure you're well aware that there is a parking shortage that exists there. I've personally experienced that myself a number of times for both good and bad experiences. What we're looking to do here is they currently own a parcel that is located across the street within 300 feet of the existing property. This parcel is currently hindered with a number of easements that really make it challenging to develop. I think there's only maybe 2 people here that were here back in the late 2000s when we tried to put a medical office building on this site, and it was extremely challenging given the wetland buffer impacts. So parking lot is what we're looking at here on this parcel, and the reason being is on similarly on the existing parcel, existing Portsmouth Hospital parcel, that is, there is no room to expand. They are also bound on either side by wetlands. It's basically an island, and they have a large power line easement that encumbers basically our entire parking lot, which prohibits the ability to build structure up. So we had to look at alternatives. Given that this site was challenged for future development, we thought that this was the appropriate use to fix the hospital's parking problem. You'll see in the parking demand calculation for the city's parking analysis that the existing hospital itself is about 32% short of what the minimum parking demand would be for the city of Portsmouth. We're proposing 520 spaces across the street so that we can meet that parking demand and provide parking for the hospital that would support it. The intent here is the satellite office would be utilized by employees, and that would then allow, patients and their family to not have to circle the parking lot or park, if you've ever been in there, park in the back end of the parking lot where the employees currently park. Looking at the site plan here, the parcel itself is situated along Borthwick Avenue at the corner of Elaine Dondero Foley Boulevard, EDF Boulevard. We're proposing 2 access drives, one being off of Borthwick Avenue, one being off of EDF Ave. We realize that will require a waiver from the planning board for the site plan regulation that is only allowing 1 curb cut per site. But we think it's appropriate given the shape of the parking area. You can see that we've made a lot of effort to avoid the wetlands and wetland buffers. In fact, we've done such that we went and got a variance to go into the front setback, such so that we could push the parking area enough up that we could avoid the wetland and wetland buffers. In addition, I mentioned that this is where it is a parking lot across the street on a separate lot. We did require a special exception. That was also granted by the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Working from kind of east to west, you can see we have that smaller parking area with the curb cut off of Borthwick Avenue. Again, just avoiding that, tucking into that upland, avoiding the wetland buffer. We have the connecting drive working its way down, also pedestrian connectivity with the sidewalk. The hospital is proposing to provide a shelter. The intent would be to provide a shuttle service, especially during the winter months, when obviously that would be a long walk in a snowstorm or a rainstorm. And then you get to the larger parking area. You can see we've provided pedestrian connectivity throughout, landscaping. The project will involve wetland impacts. While it is avoiding the buffer, there are some isolated pocket wetlands that are not part of the larger wetland complex. We will have to impact those to construct the parking area. So we will need a minor impact wetland permit, which we intend to submit shortly. We have the sidewalk continuing along and providing connection all the way out to Borthwick Avenue, and then crossing over at a crosswalk and tying into the recently constructed crosswalk and bike box that was part of the EDF project. As part of this, we would be including RRFB signals on either side of this crosswalk to warn vehicles of pedestrian crossing. This mirrors the condition that's on the other side of Portsmouth Hospital over at Liberty Mutual. And represented here, you'll see we are showing snow storage areas. We are showing them in paved areas where we are slightly exceeding the minimum parking requirement. We've shown snow storage in parking areas such that the snow melt would then not melt and flow towards the wetland, but rather flow towards the stormwater management system. There are also on this site 6 electric vehicle parking spaces you can see closest to the intersection of EDF there. And I think that kind of touches all on the site plan. Can we go to the next sheet, please? Stormwater management. This is the grading and drainage plan. It's 2 separate stormwater management systems for the two parking areas. The smaller area over to the side. To the east would be an infiltration system with treatment provided both by the infiltration and also by a jellyfish system. And then for the larger parking area, you'll see that we have a large detention system design, and also that will also be treated by a jellyfish system. Clearly, given the size and scope of this project, it's going to require alteration of terrain approval. A detailed drainage analysis has been provided to you folks that demonstrates how we meet the AOT requirements. Once we are done with this meeting, we intend to submit alteration of terrain as well to the state. Included in that drainage analysis was a detailed O&M plan that included operation and maintenance requirements for the detention systems, the jellyfish, and the parking area itself. Next slide, please, next sheet. This is just the electric plan, just representing, that we would need a transformer and need to tie electricity into the lot for the lighting, and any security cameras that the hospital will use, and also the electric charging stations. We will coordinate that with Eversource. And I think that's it on this slide. And then this is the landscape plan showing the plantings throughout the parking lot, and along the meandering path, pedestrian path that provides connection over to the hospital. So I guess that's a summary of the plan set. I did get your comments. I appreciate those. And I'd like to just go through those one by one right now, and then if there's any additional questions, I'd be happy to take them. Show that enough handicap spaces are included in other lots to accommodate new number of parking spaces. Currently, there's the 29 ADA parking spaces provided on the hospital lot. The hospital also provides valet service, so that is where we are meeting the requirement in lieu of providing what would probably be like 100 ADA spaces on site for hospital requirements. I believe it's 10% typically, but where they have valet, we can meet those requirements. No corrugated metal pipe to be used in the drainage plan. That's fine. We're happy to change out the CMP pipe to a plastic pipe, if that's the city's preference. No issue here. Note maintenance requirements for the jellyfish filters and underground infiltration system. There is a detailed O&M plan that includes those. I'm happy to also take, a screenshot of what is in the actual O&M chart and apply those right to the detail sheet itself. So they're also in the plan set. Confirmed sight lines at the driveway on Borthwick Avenue. We've looked at it today. I anticipate we can provide over 250 feet of sight distance. Just looking, both driving by there today, looking at Google Earth, but we could provide I just measured it out myself here as we were sitting in the meeting, but we can provide a graphic that demonstrates that we meet the sight distance requirement for the 35-mile-an-hour road. And then number 5, I guess I need a little bit of clarification. Buffer plantings shall be equal to the amount of the proposed fill. Where we're staying out of the buffer, I guess I just wanted to understand. I'm assuming that came from you.
That came from me. I'll tell you now or later, whenever you want.
Now it's fine. It's the last comment, so.
So you said you're filling some wetlands?
Yes.
That are not jurisdictional of the city, but I thought a good way to offset that would be to put some buffer plantings in that 100-foot buffer that you're protecting, which I appreciate. And maybe just as a way to figure out how many plants to put in, just look at the areas of fill. And
Okay.
I know you have a lot of plantings in on the front, which look nice. It just would be nice to have some plantings in that 100-foot buffer if it's not.
Sure. Yeah,
I don't see anything planned right now. That's why.
We'll look at the opportunities as I'm staring at the tree lines here to maybe put some buffer plantings within the buffer. We don't want to go in and obviously clear vegetation and put in buffer plantings, but it looks like there are some openings that are without the tree line that maybe we could show some buffer plantings to provide that enhancement.
That'd be great.
Those were the 5 comments that you folks had given me. I'm happy to take any additional questions.
So Patrick, considering that the parking lot's so large, we'll probably have it peer reviewed. 2 things of concern just that didn't make it on the comment list. One is the lower left corner there, the retaining walls in the parking lot. You can be burying the city sewer line to the point that I really don't think that we can allow that over our easement.
Okay.
It's going to be so deep that we won't be able to get to it with our equipment.
Okay.
So we're going to ask that you truncate that parking field at the easement.
Okay. We'll take a look at it.
Second point is what you and I have already talked about is this whole area gets drained by one culvert that crosses Banfield Road right by the bypass. And with all the development that's happened since Borthwick Avenue was built, I'm not convinced that the culvert that's there is large enough to be able to necessarily drain the wetland that's at the corner of Borthwick and the Route 1 bypass. If that wetland were to see flooding, it would impact the power substation that's there. So we need to work through that and see if we need to possibly create some sort of situation where we have an upper culvert that can handle additional flow that's below the level of the substation. So if something happens to that main culvert, there's a backup plan, so that it's not flooding the substation.
Okay.
So we need to work through that in some sort of drainage review, but that's kind of where I'm going with that, is, because that existing culvert is quite deep. It's quite a ways down that slope. So, and I don't know if you can directional drill through there and put some kind of PE, like a DR 55 culvert pipe and slide it through there so that you don't need to excavate Borthwick Avenue. We can certainly work with you on stuff like that.
Okay.
But I just need to make sure that with all this additional parking that we don't end up with a situation where we have a problem. Down at that substation, it powers 3/4 of the city, so.
All right, so just to clarify, you're looking for kind of a larger watershed analysis of the upstream flow?
Yeah, we need to confirm that culvert, how bad a situation it already is, and whether and what is appropriate.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, we can work on the watershed analysis and work with you, Dave.
So we'll find somebody to peer review this. I suspect that with the jellyfish filters, you meet the criteria.
Yes.
So I'm not necessarily concerned about that. I'm mostly concerned about protecting that substation.
Okay. So if we can, we'd really like to get that peer review underway as soon as possible.
I understand.
Just given the time
I get
constraints
it.
that the hospital
Yep.
has to get this work done this year.
Okay.
I've got a couple comments.
Sure, go ahead.
That parking
Welcome
lot.
back, by the way.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
haven't seen you.
This one right, oh, I can't talk to the microphone at the same time.
Here, do you want this, Eric?
Oh, okay.
Bob Barker can do it, you can't do it. Right.
Come on down.
Here, you can use that mic. You can use this mic.
I'll get this next. Okay. Uh-oh.
You did it.
All right. So at the end of this parking lot, the dead end aisle right here, because it's so long, when it's over more than 7 spaces, you really need to have a turnaround space, which I think you've done here.
Yep.
But then when the snow is covering that, you...
Eric, that was the whole area I just asked them to remove.
Yep, but the same applies. Even if you end the parking lot here, you're still going to need a turnaround area. And when the snow is there, some way to accommodate vehicles turning around when they come down, find out that it's all filled. They need to be able to get out of there.
Yep. So we'll accommodate that as part of any revision we make.
Okay. And the other one was on the sight lines at the Borthwick Ave driveway, just make sure it meets 85th percentile speeds, and because they probably do a little bit more than 35 out there.
Okay.
Patrick, I assume you have permission to put a driveway onto a private road?
We do.
Okay.
Know the guy that designed that road?
I do too. He's okay.
Any, Pat, you have a comment?
You notice on landscaping is showing earth mulch. We would want non-combustible mulch or fire resistant approved by the fire department.
You do have a snow storage plan, right? Somewhere? I didn't see it.
It's
Doesn't mean it's not there.
It's
Just
on the
means that
site
it-
plan, yeah. We have snow storage areas designated within the paved areas. And because we exceed the minimum parking requirements, we showed them in the spaces so that we could keep it on the pavement.
Okay.
Trying to be sensitive to the wetlands.
Thank you.
All right, open up any public comment?
Good afternoon, Elizabeth Bratter, property owner, 159 McDonough Street. Were you to stop by this lot, it would reveal some interesting characteristics about water runoff. Along Borthwick Ave, it's about 6 to 8 feet, depending on where you stand, to go down. And on Eileen Dondero Foley Drive, I like what Patrick did with that. The land is about 6 to 8 feet taller because it looks like it was added and then just recently covered with grass. Once you're beyond those two areas, the land is relatively flat and almost level to the Eileen Dondero Foley Drive. Reviewing the plans for a few minutes, it seems that a lot of fill is going to have to be added to this property, and I didn't see that discussed in the plans. The plans seem to indicate that it will be level to both streets, looking at the exits and entrances that are there. The problem with the fill is that the direct impact it will have on runoff. Now, I realize all those beautiful jellyfish things, and there's a retention thing, and there's a lot of money spent on keeping that water under control. My concern is that if you look at the wetland site, the plan protects the wetlands. They're not going to be built on, which is great. But if you look at those wetlands, they hook up to a marsh wetland that has thousands of peepers that serenade anyone who stops by. It seems based on the increased speed at which the runoff will occur, the on-site wetland will likely be changed into a pond by filling the property to create a flat area for the parking lot and raising it higher than the existing wetland. Please review this proposal very carefully. Looking at the TC, time of concentration, it will be changing from 14 to 28 minutes to around 6 minutes, which means there will be few puddles on the parking lot, but there'll be a lot of water being entered into the wetland. As always, it's the whole donut and not the donut hole, which needs to be thought about. This is not the Conservation Commission, but the runoff will directly impact the wetlands, and its impact needs to be considered as part of the whole. There is a big difference between adding excess water of fresh water into a freshwater pond as opposed to releasing water into a low-level water situation which absorbs the water slowly, which will sit much lower than the parking lot. So even normal runoff, which isn't going to be able to be controlled, is going to run into there on a really rainy day. The last question I have is there's some beautiful walkways out there. I walked out there yesterday with my husband, and he can only walk on flat land, so they're putting in some nice sidewalks and stuff. But the question is how are you going to get from the parking lot to the hospital safely? It seems to me that no one uses that the outer sidewalk that goes around the outside of the hospital. It's been there since they first built it, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody walk on it, around the out front area. I think there's one there. Maybe I'm losing my mind. But most people walk straight through that parking lot. If you park on the back end, they just walk straight through. So I'm suggesting that they put a parking lot on the far right, not a parking lot, but a sidewalk on the far right side of the existing parking lot on the HCA property, which would be straight to the back, which would be the path of least resistance, which is what most people do. So once you cross the street here, you have to walk 300 yards to the left, and then you take a right into the parking lot, and then where are you going to walk? Through the middle of the parking lot. So that's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Discussion on TAC.
Just to summarize, there's, seems to me that all the existing comments are still outstanding, and I have a number of new comments as well. Truncate the parking field at the easement to ensure city can have access. I believe that confirmed that the existing culvert, I guess trying to get an understanding of what the capacity is with the existing culvert, and I'm not sure the second part of that, Dave, but it had to do with potentially looking at another is it the upper culvert?
An upper culvert.
Yeah, the upper culvert.
An emergency culvert.
Yeah, an emergency culvert. That any revisions need to make sure that we have updated plans for an adequate turnaround. And then a subsequent, I think, would be make sure that they provide non-combustible mulch. But there seems to be some outstanding questions related to stormwater management, and I'm going to defer to Public Works whether they feel like that needs to come back. They seem to be significant questions still on the table.
Yeah, we'll hire a third-party reviewer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you want to see it back?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I guess I'd like clarification on, you had mentioned shuttle, but you kind of mentioned it as that it would be sometimes, not, would it be all the time? Yeah, it'd be year-round. And it would be at shift change?
Yeah, if you don't mind, coming up to the mic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dean Carucci, CEO of Portsmouth Regional Hospital. So we run one now, actually, and it runs from about 5:30 in the morning when our first shift comes on, all the way through the end of our 7 to 7 shift. So say 8 o'clock at night, 7:45, and then the remainder of the employees who work second and third shift park on site now, just because the parking is adequate.
And that would be the case after this is built, they would still, when there isn't a shuttle there, those people would be parked on.
Correct.
So what happens in the wintertime when they're, so you have a large group, I mean, you're having over 500 additional spaces there. I don't know what the anticipation is for occupants, for filling them up at any given time, but, so you have one shuttle, and then, so say, wintertime, a snowstorm, you have one structure for sheltering, is that right? Or there are multiple, or where do these folks congregate while they're waiting for the shuttle? In their vehicles, or is the shuttle always, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, so they know to go to a certain area for?
It runs constantly. It's actually not on a schedule. So you'd be surprised. We're able to keep folks moving without necessarily a pileup of folks. We actually rent a small amount of spots off-site now, and so we don't have any sort of buildup and wouldn't expect any on this one as well.
Right, okay. And is there just one structure for?
One.
Yep. Okay. All right, thank you.
Patrick, I assume that Eversource has seen this and agrees that the grading underneath the wires is appropriate?
Yep.
Okay. And a second question on the grading plan. So I see the elevation 46 at the high spot of the lot, but I don't see where else that goes. Is that whole area where the sidewalk is flattened out to roughly elevation 46, or, because it's elevation 48 out on the road, but it goes, the grade goes right up in there.
Yeah, I see what
Is your plan to remove all that ledge so that the whole area is more or less at flat grade? Is that what, it's not quite
the
shown
exception.
all the way, so it's hard
Yeah,
to
we're gonna
interpret.
we will be removing quite a bit of ledge, maybe, where it's exposed along the road there, it wouldn't be, but I see what you're saying, we need to add more grading
To
contours.
make it
along.
clear what you're doing, okay?
I understand, yep.
Okay, thank you.
I'm trying to find the structure on the site plan here.
It's,
Here, right?
Structure?
thanks, Peter.
Okay,
Right here.
I couldn't find it either, yeah.
Located it between the two parking areas.
Okay.
Just like 3 foot by 10 foot or something like that, pretty small.
Yeah.
So is that the only place the shuttle will pick up, or I'm just thinking the people who are in that very remote part of the lot, they have to walk up the hill to get to that. Are they gonna?
That'll be us.
Yeah.
That'll be administration.
Walking up a hill at school both ways.
You might want to consider having two, one per read. I mean, it's just going to loop anyways.
Right.
Probably gonna go right through the lot, I imagine, right? Yeah.
But do you only pick up at that shelter, or do you, yeah, that's the only pickup spot, yeah.
It seems like, I mean, the people who are parking on, the left side aren't going to walk all the way over to that, right? Because they could walk that far and pretty much almost be where they're going.
You'd be surprised how many people walk now.
Yeah. So, and then I think that would bring up, kind of validate the point that we heard in the public comment. If people are going to walk, to make sure we provide a safe.
There is now. There's a sidewalk all along the frontage of Portsmouth Hospital, and the sidewalk that comes all the way into the front entrance.
And I actually cross back and forth between that medical office building that sits on the plan right there, I guess, on my left. Back and forth to the hospital quite a bit, and many of our physicians do as well. So that sidewalk's actually heavily utilized.
So they're walking to the middle entrance, essentially.
Correct.
Main entrance, yeah.
and then that sidewalk carries itself all the way up to the main entrance.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, so motion to continue?
Motion to continue.
Second. I'll give it to Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, we're making good time today, actually. Last item under new business is the application of 2422 Lafayette Road Associates LLC owner and Waterstone Properties Group, Inc. applicant for property located at 2454 Lafayette Road, requesting amended site plan review approval for the alteration of the commercial pad and sidewalk, rerouting the existing sewer line, relocation of bicycle racks, and the expansion of Unit 9 from an existing footprint of 1,833 square feet to 3,650 square feet, and to then divide the space into two units equaling 1,155 square feet and 2,400 square feet. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 273, Lot 3, and lies within the Gateway Corridor District 1. Who's here to present this?
Good afternoon, Neil Hansen with Ty and Bond, civil engineers for the project. So the site, I think everyone here is very familiar with, Portsmouth Green. So this proposed project will involve the demolition of the end of was referred to as Building 2 on the site. It's currently a diner, so restaurant use, and then replacing it with 3,600 square feet of retail.
It's the last spot on the site that's green.
Yeah.
I know, it's true. Yep, go ahead.
So
You have to change the name. Portsmouth Gray.
running a lot of green with the residential that was approved recently. So this is the site plan. So there's an existing diner structure at the end of that building, sort of situated like a 45-degree angle. That'll be removed, and as you see here, the end of that building will be squared off. Those bike racks that are shown on the plan, they currently exist out there, and we'll just be relocating them to the front of the new retail space. And then, as was read in by Peter, we'll be rerouting the sewer line around the corner of the new building there. And then this is a conversion from restaurant use to retail use. So that's pretty much the project. We did receive 4 comments yesterday. So I'll just run through those quickly. First one is to replace existing sewer manhole 2494. We can do that. Show location of the water service. So the water service for this building comes into the building in the back of Doe, which is at the opposite end of this strip. So we can modify the view on the plan so that it actually shows up on the sheet where that water service is. Number 3 is please identify what will be done with the existing grease trap and where the new grease trap will be installed to accommodate the new unit. So the existing grease trap for the diner is being removed, and as these are going to be retail spaces, we're not proposing to replace that grease trap. There's, as you can see on this plan, there's 3 grease traps remaining that we're not going to be touching as part of this project that serve the other restaurant uses in this strip. And then 4 is please provide a trip generation memo to address the change in trips and traffic from existing to proposed. So I did take a look at that after receiving this comment, and I can provide a formal memo to that. But the trips were the weekday AM peak is a reduction of 9 trips. The weekday PM peak is an addition of 7, and the Saturday peak is an addition of 4 trips.
Okay.
And those are all the comments we had received yesterday, and answer any other questions.
I remember when this building got built, it was just like, we need this building on the right, and we're going to create this cool diner so that we can draw interest into the site. That's why we need to put a building on that side.
I wasn't here for that.
I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did it work? I wasn't here either. Did it?
Got them there. Now they can
So-
change it.
Let me just go through a list here. So, Shio's gone. The movie theater's gone. And now the diner's gone.
Yeah.
It's almost like you do these things just to aggravate me. Really.
All your favorites.
All my favorite things.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Should we add that as a comment? Why are you taking away my
Should
favorite
not put
things?
it as a comment.
Maybe you'll really enjoy
Record.
what's going in here.
I doubt it.
I don't know what it is,
I
but
seriously doubt it. I haven't been into a retail establishment in probably 5 or 6 years.
But Dave, we're keeping the bike racks.
Awesome.
there's that. Plenty of
That's
bike racks
awesome.
on the site.
Yeah, great. Good job, Neil.
Go ahead, Pat.
Get the hydrant in the parking lot there. So if I'm looking at the truck turning template,
Mm-hmm.
is that in the right place? I know there's a hydrant right around, it shows me that we're hitting it, I guess, but it looks like it's right on curb.
Oh, yeah, on the far side by Doe.
Yep.
Yeah, so that does exist currently. That's in a traffic parking island at the end of a parking rail. So that curb line is where it's an existing curb line, and that hydrant currently exists there.
Okay, I mean, I'm looking at the body of our truck hitting. the
Yeah,
hydrant.
we can adjust that template because it looks like we got some room on the inside of that corner, so we can adjust the path to avoid that conflict.
And then in the rear of the building, that's a fire lane.
That whole striped aisle.
Yep.
Yeah, is.
It's gonna remain a fire lane.
Yep.
Not gonna turn into a loading zone.
Nope.
The one over by Petco did.
Petco's turning into a pet euthanization place. Just to make everything sad over there. So sad. Terribly sad.
Anyways.
You're all sunshine and daisies today.
I was in a good mood till I saw this.
That's all I have. And then I recently learned that if we don't have signage in conjunction with striping on fire lanes, that they can't be ticketed, so can you just look at the city ordinance and make sure it's followed?
With signage?
Fire lanes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that in chapter 7? Is that,
I'm not sure. I got
Okay.
it. So. Probably.
yeah, I think it also says fire lanes have to be 18 feet wide. But, so,
Yeah.
Does it need to be just on the ground or signs
On
along
the
it?
building, apparently.
Okay.
As well.
Chapter 7, Chapter 11, it's all the same.
And is it retail going in there or a restaurant?
Retail. Yeah.
I think so.
Still pizza.
You have to ensure that the sprinkler, which it should because there's a pump there. That's the far end, the furthest from the riser, and it's gonna be a higher sprinkler demand for mercantile than it would have been for the restaurant. By
That's ironic.
double, well, because of the material.
It's a diner. It's grease.
But I have a separate suppression system.
Oh, okay. I see.
So should this area become a restaurant, which I know it probably won't be, it could connect into one of those 3 grease traps? Is that what you're stating?
Potentially, they'd probably have to add a fourth one back in if it were to ever convert.
Give them a reason to come back again.
Yeah, right, okay.
We keep going on this site.
I know.
Round and round we go.
Any other comments? Anyone from the public here? Close the public hearing. What's the pleasure?
Seems to me all the comments are still outstanding, but I don't see anything that would necessitate bringing it back unless Public Works, Fire, or another representative here sees something.
Couldn't stand it.
Move to approve.
Second.
Recommend approval.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other business, or is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Been down to something.
Hey, we never did that.
Tell 'em.
We never did
All right.
that, did we?
Daily dose of sadness.